Good morning. My name's Anne Ross. I'm editor of the TES and I'm on the Global Teacher Prize Committee. I'm sorry if any of you here are expecting to see Aquila. Unfortunately, she can't be with us today owing to visa issues. However, Elisa Guerra from Mexico has very happily stepped in to take her place. Elisa is a top 50 finalist for 2 years running now, so she's done very well indeed. And we're really grateful to her for stepping in, because it's not easy to come and step in for somebody else at this sort of notice. Let me tell you something about Elisa. She had been working with brain-injured children for over 15 years as a volunteer, and she had no thoughts of becoming a teacher until she saw the effect that school was having on her own son. She was worried that it would destroy his individuality and love of learning. So 12 years ago, she borrowed money, she sold her car, and she opened a preschool with 17 children, including her own. She studied for her teaching degree at home, eventually ranking first in the National Teachers Examination. So, well done on that. Her teaching puts a special emphasis on encouraging respect for others and valuing diversity in culture, art and music. The programme starts at age 3 and she uses mainly collaborative projects. Not finding any existing teaching materials fit for purpose, she has created her own and she has published them online. So well done, Lisa, and over to you.
Well, thank you very much for being here. I have very big shoes to fill for Aquila, as if you just imagine. So I will do my best to talk to you a little bit about what we do in our school in Mexico. Now, this is our school. It's named Colegio Valle de Filadelfia. This is the actual front door of our school, and we are located in a city in Mexico, just in the belly button of Mexico. So this is no Mexico City, no one of the biggest cities in Mexico. It's just in the middle, in the geographic middle of Mexico. And there you see, you may know a lot of things about Mexico. You may know that we have great beaches, that our food is delicious, that we are warm people. You may have even tried our tacos. I don't know. And that's the good things about Mexico. But seems like we are not doing a good job on educating our young. If you remember Andreas Leischer's presentation from last morning, yesterday, you could see that Mexico is consistently at the bottom of the PISA tests. Consistently, year after year, in every subject. It doesn't get much worse than that. And now we have here Finland, who is consistently at the top. And you could say, what on earth can we learn from Mexico if they are ranking so low? Well, maybe what we are trying to do right now is, what are we going to do about this problem in education that we have? Do we just sit down and cry and say nothing can be done? We are already way behind. Not just Finland. The rest of the countries that take part in PISA from the OECD are also, of course, above us. So we have a big problem to tackle. Now, we cannot do everything, and I have no intention of changing the system, at least not in 1 day or 2 or 1 year, but I believe that we can do so much, every one of us, even if it's a little bit, in our own classrooms and schools and our areas of influence. So this is our school, and what do we do in our school? The school currently goes from preschool to the 9th grade, and we have 174 kids in our campus in Aguascalientes. We have other 6 schools in Mexico and 2 more schools, one in Costa Rica and one in Brazil, opening this year. So we are growing little by little. What do we do in the school? Well, we have a very wide program in which we include, of course, academics, but on top of that, we favor art and music very widely. We also foster excellence in physical activities, global citizenship. And of course, we cannot talk about everything today. We have very little time. So I would like to focus on one thing that is my personal passion, one of my personal passions, which is reading, and specifically early reading. So why do I want to talk about early reading? And first of all, you may say, okay, what do you mean with early reading? Why early reading? And how early do you mean with early reading? So the first reason I would like to talk about early reading or reading is that research has shown consistently that there seems to be a correlation between strong reading skills and the probability of staying at schools, of achieving better academic results, of getting a good job, and of keeping that job. So strong reading skills are very important. And of course, strong reading skills are also the door to other subject areas. So if you are a good reader, you have a much better chance of being a good student and a good lifelong learner. So that's why reading is one of my personal passions and priorities. The second one is that research also shows that investment in early childhood education is crucial. Look at this. When you are too young, when you are very young, when you are 3 or 4, of course kids already have learning differences. Of course some kids already exhibit some learning difficulties as well. But the achievement gap, it's not too wide yet. I mean, how far behind can you be if you're only 3? But if we don't fix the things that are not working well from the beginning, the achievement gap will be growing and growing as time goes by. So the best investment is to prevent this achievement gap from getting wider, or even preventing it completely. And I think that the only way we could attempt to do that is through early childhood education. So that's why also I favor early childhood education, and in this regard specifically early reading. Now, the other question. How early are we talking about? Very early. Very early. We start at around 3 years of age, and sometimes even before that. Now, I know this is controversial. I know I am being disruptive. But please allow me to elaborate a little bit more on the main concerns that people have when they hear that somebody is trying to teach a 3-year-old child to read. So the first concern that we get, and we hear this a lot, is, what are you doing? A 3-year-old should be spending time on the playground, should be enjoying life, should be just having the joy of learning. Why are you burdening him or her with reading exercise, with drilling, with the ABCs? And of course, there's a point in that. And I would like to call this the myth of the abandoned playground. And I'm sure there are some teaching programs somewhere that pressure the child and that take him into, this prison of early schooling. And we see, these abandoned playgrounds because kids cannot play, because they have no time, because they have to do so much so early. And if you think the way you learn to read, most of us, you may remember drilling, repeating the ABCs. I remember that my hand hurt, for all the tracings I had to do, repeating the letters once and again for thousands of times. And if your page was not beautiful, maybe you will have to do it all over again. Maybe the teacher will rip it for you or put a big X, red X on it, and tell you have to do this again. And of course, if you think in that, and you think about a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, you say, how we could do that to a tiny little kid? How could we just make them and rob them of the fun of learning in that way. And of course, that is not what we are intending to do. If that was early reading, at least in our proposal, I will not be, of course, happy to do that either. But it's a very different way that we do it. Now, I've been working for 15 years as a volunteer for the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. This is an organization, a non-for-profit organization in Philadelphia. And we work with the families of brain-injured children and, of course, with the children. And one of the many things that we do there is that we teach the mothers and the fathers how to teach their brain-injured children to read. Now, how do you teach an autistic child to read? How do you teach a Down syndrome child to read? You know, traditional approaches are not very good in this problem. You have to think differently. You have to find another way to reach these children. And that's what we have been doing for 60 years now at the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. But these programs that were developed there were designed for mom and dad working one-on-one with their brain-injured children at home. Now, just envision this. Just think about this a little bit. Imagine you are the mother of an 8-year-old autistic child, and you are trying to teach him to read. So you sit in the living room of your house with your reading materials in a very joyous way, and it's one-to-one with your child, and you're teaching him. And by the way, you also have a 3-year-old girl, and she's playing around, you know, just while you're trying to teach older brother to read. And suddenly, some weeks later, you realize that she can read many words that you were working with your 8-year-old. And she did it almost casually, effortlessly. And of course, she's not stressed. She didn't have to stop playing. She did it because the brain is primed for language. And when it's very early in their lives, children are very, very primed for language. They learn language so easily. You know, the spoken language. Nobody could say, oh my God, I have to give a lesson for the baby to learn to speak. He just does it naturally because he's in context and he's exposed to this sensory stimulation the whole time. But we don't have the same advantage with reading, of course. But reading is just like oral language, just that it's not oral, it's written. But it's also sensory. It's a brain function, not a school subject. So that's the first approach on what and why and how we do early reading. Not the traditional way. We treat it as a brain function, not as a school subject. And we start early also because it's easier for the children to learn when they are little. If they grow older, this approach gets a little bit tougher on them. So it's very easy. We see, for example, if you were to start an early reading program right now, today, with a 3-year-old, with a 4-year-old, and with a 5-year-old, the 3-year-old will fare much better, you know, because his brain is so plastic and ready and prone to be stimulated, much more than when we get older and older. So that's the story, a little bit of the institutes. And of course, we have modified a little this approach to be able to take it to the classroom. It's not the same thing you working with your child one-to-one in your living room that you as a teacher working in a group with, I don't know, 15, 20, 25, 30, sometimes even more kids, right? So we needed to have a program that will fit this purpose. And I would like to show you, just very briefly, how will a typical lesson in early reading would look like. So, if this was my actual classroom and you were my kids, you will not be sitting on chairs. I will ask you to come up front and sit in the floor with me. But of course, we cannot do that right now. So we are going to pretend that we are sitting on the floor. And I just tell you, hey, guess what? We are going to see some reading cards. Are you ready? Just look at this. Pig, dog, cat, horse, rabbit. Great, you did wonderfully. And that's the end of the session. Now, how hard was that? Not really very hard. Now, maybe you are thinking, what do you want to do with that? I mean, that was so quick. Do children are really getting it? It was so fast. Now, let me show you one word, and let's see how long it takes for you to read this word, okay? Oh my gosh, that was like a second, or even less. Now, let me show you another word. Look at it. Are you sure you got it? Just look at it again because I want to make sure. Do you got it? Isn't that disgusting? If you just try to push the words into the kids and you want to make sure that they got it ages ago. Gee. Don't you get mad when you get underestimated? Don't do that to your kids, please. Don't underestimate them. So, you may have noticed something in common in the words that I show you. What do you think it was? Animals. All of them were animals. That is very important. Yes, we have categories of words, and we have these categories joined by meaning, not by sound, not by phonics, not because they start with the same letter, not because they rhyme, not because they sound alike. It's because they mean something similar. So in this case, the child knows that you are presenting him with animals. And by the way, every kid loves animals. And if you happen to present an animal that he doesn't really know, he still gets an idea that it belongs to a certain category. So you are making reading meaningful from the very beginning. Now, of course, it's not that you present the words one time and you are done. We have to do it with duration, intensity, and specific frequency as well, in a very joyous manner. That's very important. Look at this. And just see the difference between the first session and the second session. Kids, we're going to see you reading words, so sit down and pay attention. Plane, boat, train, helicopter, look at me, car. Okay, well done. Don't you hate that? So, the most important ingredient for a reading session, and for any teaching session, I think, is joy. Joy is contagious. If you just are having fun when you are teaching your children, they will have fun as well, because your enthusiasm will rub off on them. So I think that's very, very important in whatever is that you are teaching. Now, I am going to show a little video of an actual session with the kids. Okay? So the video is about 3.5 minutes long. And what you're going to see there is, of course, we don't do only words. We go on to books. We go on to phrases, to poems, to songs. And we also develop vocabulary with the kids. So what you're going to see is that I am going to show the kids a set of words, first with 3-year-olds. And I am going to show them around words that we are going to find in the book. Okay? So they begin to relate to the book's content. It's going to be just a tiny fraction of the book, not the whole book. And this is a homemade book, a book I did myself. Then you're going to see an actual session of reading and playing. And this will be a reading bingo. Are you familiar with the game bingo? Okay, so we have reading cards with different words, 9 words, I think, in each board. And the children get to play bingo with the words. And we have one child, one little girl, that is reading aloud the words for them, and they just, try to find if they have the words in the board. And you can see that they are having fun, okay? So I would like to see the video right now, if possible.
Antes de ver el cuento, vamos a ver unas palabras que hay ahí que vienen en el cuento. ¿Están listos para verlas? Sí. México, tucán, bandera, colores, bonito, mapa. Muy bien, vamos a encontrar algunas de esas palabras en el cuento que vamos a ver. ¿Están listos? Sí. Es un libro grande y se llama Este es México. Este es el mapa de México. ¿Vamos a ver el mapa de México? ¡Sí!
Lista.
Kinder.
Kinder, muy bien. Sigue.
Aquí. Sí. Azul.
Azul.
Coco. Coco. Sí. Morado. No. Ah. Kiwi. Kiwi. Yo no tengo. Uniforme. Uniforme. No. Yo tampoco. Morado. Sí.
No. ¿Es morado? A ver, veo.
Moño.
Moño.
Sí, yo tengo.
Moño.
No tengo morado. Rojo.
Moño.
Rojo. No.
Rojo.
Sí, tengo rojo. Uno. No tengo uno. Mía, si tienes uno. Piña para la niña. No tengo piña. Ya.
Tiene piña para la niña. Lotería.
Lotería.
Lotería. ¡Bravo!
Okay. Okay, wasn't that fun? The kids were having a blast. Now, I want to tell you that we can continue with this reading approach even later when kids already know how to read. And here we have kids on elementary school. Now, the words in Spanish, but these are much more advanced words, you know? So in elementary school, we use this reading approach for incrementing vocabulary, reading fluency, orthography, of course. If you sometimes don't know how to write a word orthographically correctly, you're not going to think in your mind the rules of writing the words, are you? What do? I'm sure that you write it in the many different ways that you can write it, and then you see which one of them is more appealing to you. So this is a very good way also, this reading program, this reading approach, to help the kids write well. So we do it also in elementary grades with different purposes. And as I said before, the most important ingredient in any teaching session is joy. So I would like to thank you very much for being here today. And I think that we still have 5 minutes for questions. Is that correct? It is correct? So we do have 5 minutes if there is any question. There.
I'm just curious, because we saw the drill and practice approach has been around for so many years. So what was your inspiration to do something different? Play in most schools, unfortunately, is looked at as a negative. It's been positive, and I love seeing
I began teaching my own children at home when they were little because I was in love with music, art, reading, and I wanted them to have a similar experience with, everything that is beautiful in the world. And when my firstborn went to school, I saw that he was not really enjoying it. So I changed him to another school, and he was still not enjoying it. And he's this kind of child that is not a conformist. He will question things. He will jump all over his seat. He cannot stay still, And I wanted for him something better, something that will suit him better. And I could not find it. So I decided to create my own. And that was my turning point. Yeah. Well, thank you so very much. And I would like to say, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm actually interested in how you engage parents to support kids with at home.
Okay, that's,
Especially for illiterate parents.
yes, that's a very, very good question. So research has also shown that what happens in home, outside of a classroom, is maybe even more important than what happens in schools. So we need to make the two things work together. So we try to talk to parents. We give them an introductory lecture at the beginning of the school year. We make it easy for them to work at home with their kids. We provide them with the materials, and we teach them how to do the materials. You saw it's very easy. The materials is just, whatever you need is just cardboard and markers. So anyone could have that. And another thing that we tell parents and also teachers is take into account the interest of your child. So let's say that your child loves cars. Why don't you make a reading category with the names of cars, the brands of cars? That's reading as well. Say he just saw a movie, or he says he just went to somewhere that was very interesting for him. Let's make a reading category of those words. And you know what? Something happens with reading and with everything else that we do. When parents are engaged and when teachers are engaged, we also grow alongside with the kids. So we are educating children, and at the same time, we are kind of educating parents. Well, if it's not too much to ask, I will ask from you, or I will say shukran, muchas gracias, and thank you very much. And I will ask for you to clap your hands for Aquila Asifi, that could not be here today, and whose place I so undeservedly took up this morning. So for the great Aquila Asifi, please clap your hands.